Do you know how many times that I've seen a kid actually get worse because of what they have been taught? Yes, because of what they're being taught by a parent, by a coach, by a hitting coach, or whoever's teaching them that. I've seen so many kids hindered and actually get worse on the field in a game because of the information that they are being given. If you want to know what is happening in this community and you want to not get fooled and be misled by what's going on, I would highly recommend you watch this whole video all the way to the end, and I'm going to expose what's really going on out there as far as what's being taught and how it can actually make you worse if you listen to it. Baseball truth, you shall know the truth, and that truth shall set you free both mentally and physically. Check out these things. I actually used bomb bats when I used to play. Yes, they're old. They are amazing. These are the new maple bomb bats. These things are awesome. They don't break. Mine broke after about 10 years. I hit a home run and it shattered right here off the handle, but they replaced it because they're awesome. Go get yourself a bomb bat if you want a really high quality wood, and check out that new maple bomb bat. It's got amazing pop. It's awesome. Oh my goodness. This has been a video that I've been asked to do several times just in this last month, especially after I posted a post that I put out there because everybody wants to know what. I posted, I think it was a few weeks ago, about how the kids that are being taught certain things can actually make them worse, and how the community of the hitting community and the instructional community needs to understand this so that they're not getting kids worse. Now, nobody goes into teaching somebody something with the intent of how am I gonna make them worse? How is this gonna make this player worse? Everybody that does it has the heart, I hope, to want to help kids and make kids better. But I'm seeing a very common cycle right now going on when it comes to like hitting instruction specifically. And this goes with pitching, this goes with anything where you're actually getting instructional stuff, maybe even paid instruction or whatever it is. There's a lot of stuff out there that's being taught that will actually make hitters worse if they are taught it in the wrong way, or they're not understanding why things, how they work and why things work. There's a whole bunch right now of, I'll just call it stupid mechanical garbage that isn't necessarily the wrong way. I mean, you watch a slow motion swing and it's the way the swing's supposed to operate. The hitting's summed up in this right here, just so you know. You're to arrive on time, on plane, stay through the ball, and finish your swing. That's how hitting works, okay? So if you can arrive on time, on plane, with the desired bat angle and the desired contact point, you're gonna be successful as a hitter if you can do that consistently. So it ain't rocket science on how to do it. The problem is there's a lot of mechanical garbage, and I'll say garbage because it's garbage with a couple things in mind. It's garbage that it's not the wrong thing to teach, but it's garbage because when kids think too much about their mechanics, specifically at an early age, it puts them in mental jail and it teaches them to think about it way too much. I am so thankful growing up that I didn't have coaches changing my swing every day, every week, every year, every month. I'm so thankful that I didn't have any coaches doing that, because it allowed me to be confident and it allowed me to be who I am, and it allowed me to figure it out. I think too many times these days the mechanical garbage isn't necessarily what's being taught. You can go watch someone say something on Twitter or something and be like, okay, that's garbage or whatever, it's common sense. But at the same time, the mechanical garbage is when that's your only focus, it actually can make hitters worse off sometimes, because kids these days can get over analytical mindset. They can be paralyzed by overanalysis if they're thinking about it way too much. I'm gonna give you a quick story about, well, I have a whole bunch of stories. I'm gonna give you a quick story about a specific player that I've worked with for a while. And he got taught something by a coach. I don't want to get into too much detail about what it is, but it had to do with where his hands were at and where his hands should go when he swings, which is the right information. The coach gave him the right information, but what made it the wrong information is he went from trying to swing the bat aggressively and attack the ball to trying to perform the swing the right way, which in turn translated into the game as this overwhelming mechanical focus that didn't allow him to compete. It also hindered his bat speed and his reaction and his pitch recognition to the point where he was so focused on his swing that he couldn't react fast enough. So I noticed it right away, and I literally said to this player, I'm like, who you been listening to? And he's like, well, I've been listening to my coach. And I said, what have they been teaching you? Well, my coach has been teaching me this and this and this and this. And I'm like, sweet, that's all good stuff. That's all the right stuff. I said, are you thinking about that in a game in the box? He's like, yeah, I'm trying. And I'm like, that's your problem, because his bat speed was way better and way quicker before he started thinking about all that stuff. So I did this. This is as simple as it gets when it comes to this stuff. And this is the reason why I've been wanting to do this video. Instead of telling them like how to do all this stuff, that's a great thing to do. They need to keep their hands inside the ball. They need to load a certain way. They need to do all that stuff. But they got to do it with quickness and confidence. They have to do it with the attitude of explosive mentality, and they have to build confidence in doing it. His confidence was shot because he was trying to do it right versus being in there and being aggressive. So the thing that I taught him was simple. Let's get your bat speed back. Let's not even think about that. And let's attack the ball, hit it out in front where you were. Because right now, you're hitting the ball way too deep in the zone because you're trying to think about how to perform it right. So he went back into the box, started swinging the bat more aggressively and quicker, got his reaction quicker, started hitting the ball where he needed to hit it. The confidence was back, and he's like, yeah, coach, I really needed that. And I was like, I just undid what you were taught. What you were taught wasn't the wrong thing. It just wasn't what he needed at that time. And this is where this whole informational piece is going, is it's not the wrong information. It's just the wrong information per that specific individual. And it's the wrong information because kids aren't given what they need individually. What's going on, and this is the culture. And I used to do videos on this a while back, 3 or 4 years ago, where everyone's going like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Now everybody knows what I'm talking about. There's so many robotic movements going on these days that it's completely sucking the athleticism out of kids. What's being taught is the right movements, but it's sucking the athleticism out of the body, and it's allowing kids to be more robotically mindseted versus like athletically aggressive. And all I see these days, I shouldn't say all I see. The majority of things that I see these days is a bunch of hitters that move like robots and create these robotic movements, and their athleticism is gone. If you, let me just get here because this is getting me fired up. If you suck the athleticism out of the hitter, you're making them worse. If you're not allowing the hitter to adjust their body, to adjust their swing to the different pitches, the different locations, the different movements, the different speeds, you are making them worse. Kids these days are warehoused into swinging a certain way into a certain area, and that's all they can do, and it's making them worse, and kids don't even realize that. You look at them off the tee, and you put a ball on the tee, and their swing looks awesome, and you post it on Instagram, and you get thousands of likes and views, and you're like, oh, look at this great swing. And then you get to the game, and that swing doesn't adjust to a pitch, and they're not very good. You do soft toss and front toss at 10 miles an hour, and then you get to the game and there's some velocity behind it, and they're not able to adjust their timing and their reaction process, and then they're not very good. So we have to understand, are the movements important? The mechanical movements? Yes. We have to teach the proper swing mechanics. We have to teach inside the ball, through the ball, rotate the hips, finish, all that stuff. But we have to make sure it's done with confidence building. It's done with athleticism, and it's done with an explosive mindset and aggression. It can't be done, and I'm gonna venture to say this, it can't be done if all you think about is your swing mechanics being robotic. Because if you're a robot, you'll never be very good, ever. Period. End of statement. You cannot be robotic in the box. You have to be athletic in the box. And that gets into this overanalyzation of the swing mechanics all the time. Like kids, I did a video on this a while back too, but kids these days will go back to the dugout after getting out and think about 4 or 5 different things that they did wrong with their swing. How about telling yourself 10 good things that you did right when you get a good hit? Hit a double in the gap, tell yourself, I got that pitch out front. I got it in the middle of the ball. I hit it with aggression, my hips rotated, or whatever it is. Tell yourself positive thoughts versus putting yourself into this negative mindset all the time. And that's where the culture of hitting is at. It's this negative mindset because at 7 years old, they're taught that 7 things are wrong with my swing every time I swing the bat. Every time I swing the bat. I get out, something's wrong with my swing. I get a base hit, my swing did really well that at bat. You have to get out of that mindset. We have to be able to teach the mechanics, but we have to also allow them to be athletic. The other thing that's going on is just the overanalyzation of swing mechanics in slow motion, okay? I wrote about this in my book on slow motion, and it's just getting worse and worse and worse. And it's getting worse because of the data and the statistics, which are all great, the analytics and the baseball nerds that are out there that never played that want to give you all this stuff. But the overanalyzation of swing mechanics in slow motion is actually creating slow motion swings. You understand what I'm saying? When you analyze your swing so much in slow motion, and all you do is you pick it apart into this degree versus this degree, and this and this and this, your swing will actually become slow motion. And I get slow motion videos sent to me every day. I don't even look at them because I don't have time. I wish I could. But I don't look at them because it's a waste of time. Most of the slow motion swing analysis is done with a tee or a soft toss or a pitch in their wheelhouse, and it looks perfect. Throw that pitch out of their wheelhouse. Throw that pitch at a higher rate of speed. Throw that pitch, on a different tilt versus underhand to them and see what happens. Because most of the stuff you see in slow motion, isn't created by the swing itself. It's created by something else. It's a pitch low in the zone. They got bad recognition. They loaded too late. Their timing was off. So what you're seeing in slow motion isn't necessarily wrong, but it's not fixed by watching it in slow motion. It's fixed by understanding what's going on in full speed, fast speed, so that you can make that adjustment. Slow motion swing analysis works if you understand the purpose of it. And the purpose of it isn't to dissect your swing into 50 different moving parts and try to think about it all. That stuff is simple, and it has to be done in a way that's understandable to a player. Because a lot of times, we baseball coaches try to sound smarter than we actually are. Let's be clear. We play baseball, and we're not that smart. So don't try to sound smarter than you are by using big words and terminology, because that's another thing that's taking your kids down the wrong path, is being overwhelmed with stuff. How about you just say, throw your hands to the ball versus, hey, you need to load with this and blah, 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 and try to sound smart, because you're not. I'm not either. So we have to understand that slow motion stuff is important. You can work on it. But know that if you watch your swing in slow motion so many times, you're gonna become slow motion at some point. Another quick story. I've had numerous kids that were early commits, okay? And I'm just gonna use a story for one of them, but early committed kids, say 9th or 10th grade, they're committed D1 somewhere, and they're early commit. They go off, they go get some hitting instruction from somebody, okay? They're trying to get better. At 14, 15 years old, they're really good for their age, but they wanna keep working, they wanna improve. They have the desire to go get better, so they go get this instruction. 2 or 3 years later, they go back going, why am I not as good as when I was at 14? Well, number one, the pitching gets better and the competition gets better and it's harder to do. And the expectation should be a little bit lower because of the competition that you're playing on that level. But number two, it's because of what they are being taught isn't helpful to them. What they're being taught isn't gonna make them better. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of these elite athletes going places, getting instruction from people or whoever, or watching videos like this and trying to get better, and then trying to do it and then actually getting worse. They get worse not because of what they were taught. This isn't about that. They get worse because they over-evaluate irrelevant things that make no point whatsoever in helping them get better. They over-evaluate it all the time, and then their brain becomes a mental mess, and then they start thinking too much, and they lose their athleticism, and they lose their confidence, and before you know it, they're like, where am I at? I know 4 or 5 kids specifically that were early commits when they were 9th and 10th grade. They go get instruction. By the time they're a senior, they lose their scholarship. I know 4 or 5 right now off the top of my head, and I'm sure there's hundreds of them all over the place. And we have to be careful about what we're teaching them. And you guys that are listening to this, you guys that are ball players and coaches, you have to be careful of what you're learning, and you have to be careful of what you're giving them. Because that stuff right there, if I was just to be brutally honest, those kids that lost scholarships because of that, they would have been way better off without anybody telling them anything about their hitting or their swing. Way better off. They would have just gone through their thing. They would have developed. They didn't need anybody. Okay, I tell our elite athletes all the time, you don't need me. I'm just here to try to help tell you what you can do to work on and get better and give you some things, but you don't need me. If you really need me, then you wouldn't have been committed right now, but you don't need me. All I'm trying to do is not mess you up, and I'm trying to build you confidence so that you go into the next year and the year after that with that confidence that you're able to compete. Not going into your freshman year in college thinking, well, I hope I can compete. Well, I hope my swing's this, because you're already beat. So those kids, it's sad, but it's like that a lot of places these days. Kids want instruction, they want to get better, they see stuff on social media, they want to improve, they see their friends doing it, parents start talking, it travels, and then they go get that instruction, or they get something and it's not individualized for them, and it doesn't make them better. And that's the final point of this video, is, are you getting taught what you really need individually, or are you getting taught mechanical stuff that everybody is doing? Or are you getting taught mechanical stuff that whoever's teaching you is teaching everybody the same stuff? Because if you're not getting what you need individually, you're not going to get better. If you're working on something specific mechanically, but yet you struggle with pressure and anxiety and you can't control your emotions and you can't control the spotlight, then you're not gonna get better, because you can have the prettiest swing in America and then step in the box and can't compete because you're overwhelmed mentally by the anxiety and pressure of what's going on. So if you're not working on learning how to control the pressure and anxiety, then you're gonna be struggling no matter what your swing looks like. Are you somebody, this is a common thing too, are you somebody that overwhelms yourself mentally of mental plan and approach stuff? Yeah, there's that too. There's the mental game out there, and your mental game needs to do this, and you need to breathe like this, and you need to focus on this, and yoga that, and blah, blah, blah. Are you overwhelming yourself mentally to the point where you overthink your plan and approach? I've seen that thousands of times too as well. Half the battle with these guys in the big leagues is overwhelming themselves mentally. They get in a little funk, then you start thinking different things and different approach, and it just gets worse sometimes. So you have to understand, just because something's right for somebody else doesn't mean it's gonna be right for you. And as a hitter, you need to be getting what you need individually. Sometimes it's super simple. Let me rewind that. A lot of times it's super simple, and a lot of times it's way more simple than whoever's teaching you is trying to portray. Meaning, sometimes you just hit the ball a little bit late in the zone and you need to learn how to react faster. So instead of changing your load and changing your swing and changing all this stuff, if you're an elite athlete, you don't really need to change much most of the time. You just need to challenge yourself a lot more, learn how to react to the ball better, see the ball better, create better bat speed, and then that usually fixes what goes on in your brain as well. A lot of the times when I deal with elite type of athletes and hitters, most of it has nothing to do with their swing, because when you fix their brain, usually the swing will naturally fix itself. So as a hitter, I don't care if you're a little leaguer, I don't care if you're in the big leagues right now, if you're not developing what you need to improve on, if you don't know your weaknesses, if you don't know what's causing those weaknesses, if you're not putting forth the work that's gonna allow your weaknesses to improve, and all you're doing is swing mechanics this and that and this and that and overwhelming yourself there, you're never gonna get better. And you're actually making yourself worse. And you hitting coaches that are watching this, you're making them worse when we are the ones that are telling them that information. We as hitting coaches need to be able to understand when something's not working, when something does work, and be able to adapt and adjust to what they need. That's the problem. We don't adapt and adjust to what they need sometimes. Sometimes a kid just needs to be patted on the back like, hey, you got this, and don't say anything about their swing and challenge them to be more aggressive. Sometimes a kid needs to be pushed on the back, work on some mechanical things, and work on different things than that. Everybody's different and everybody's unique for their needs, but don't allow yourself, coaches and ball players, don't allow yourself to be overwhelmed mentally with what you're doing wrong, because that's one of the biggest problems with the instruction that's going to make you worse. So there's a lot of other things too that'll make you worse. I chose in this video not to go into detail about what's being taught or what's not being taught. Everybody knows. If you play baseball at a high level, you know what the swing's supposed to look like. And if you don't teach it. Just go out there and encourage it. But you know what the swing's supposed to look like. But I'm going to challenge you for this one thing. Make sure, instead of thinking about the mechanical stuff that they need, think about, what do I need to give them individually that's gonna help their specific weaknesses, their in-game specific weaknesses, versus just teaching them a certain way of how to do it because it worked for me or it worked for somebody else. So there's a lot more, but those are the main issues that I see running into the community these days. We got to do a better job of teaching it. We got to do better at recognizing when somebody's not understanding what's being taught or that's not working. I've done this thousands of times where I'll try something with somebody and I'll see that it's not working. You can see and change it right away. I've had kids go more upright and here and try it and then it doesn't work. So now we're back to trying something else. And then that leads into, once something works, stop changing it. Stop changing it. If it works, stop changing it. If you have a bad weekend, a bad week, a bad couple of bats, stop changing it. Stick with it. Has nothing to do with your swing. I promise you it doesn't. So I hope this right here is very helpful. I hope that you guys understand my point in this. This isn't a bash coaches, informational spot. This is a help coaches understand what we're doing sometimes can actually make them worse. Recognize it, allow yourself to humble yourself and say, hey, that didn't work and let's change it. And if you're a ball player and something's not working, then stop doing it and just free yourself. Free yourself from the mumbo jumbo of the garbage mechanics that's being taught all the time. Free yourself from it and just get in there and rake and get in there and do what you do best. Check out Bombat. This is awesome. Baseball truth. Know that truth. Know today's truth. And don't be fooled by the common misleadings that are out there being taught. God bless.